Crystal, KM Law, I believe. She's on the Public Safety Commission.
Pastors of whatever denomination come up and deliver their remarks. I'm saying, I don't even know where that church is.
Maybe for the, who's doing the report?
Church building now. Are you familiar with where Friendship was?
Why do I drink decaf?
Friendship on the corner. So 75. Butts it up against it. Our building had been
You know what happened?
next to
Oh, what ended up happening?
So Ed said Southgate's meetings are like,
If we can, I sent him a message too. And then we would do that. If I could have the camera back, please.
Archbishop recently was talking about across the whole spectrum of movement. People are just not going to church. And that's caused by financial distress for whatever church you belong to.
there were significant challenges.
Thank you.
I think it's on that.
Yeah, I just read, or I just heard the other day, the Lincoln Park BMW was going to shut.
Person is here is prepared.
Yeah, Fort on the south, north end.
Yeah, really.
Just I don't have enough. All the World War II Korean vets are dying, and Kosovo and Iraq and Afghanistan, they weren't no part of it.
This make for long days.
Horvath is his last name.
Jim Bowen.
It's a long day when it's coming here at 6 o'clock and freezing again.
Ooh, I'm freezing again.
Okay.
I didn't realize that. That's too bad.
He's the one who told
I
me
like the idea though too of the warnings. I think when you hear those very chicken.
Push it back.
Well, I think it's properly posted.
There we go.
All right. Here we go.
All right.
Good evening. We'll call the Tuesday, February 18th, 2020 meeting of the Lincoln Park Mayor and City Council to order. If everyone would please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be immediately followed by invocation by Reverend Dave Duran of the Friendship Baptist Church. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you and we ask for wisdom and for guidance as this group leads our city. We pray that you would give them skill as they think through the issues that are facing the people who live here. We know that there are so many people who are influenced by their decisions, and we ask for wisdom. We ask that you would also alleviate the burden of the Kersey family as we just ask that you would comfort them in their time of need, and I pray that you would help them, Lord. We pray that you would cause our city to flourish as a place where justice and truth and peace are upheld, where all people can live and raise their families, worship and play and work for your glory under your care. It is in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend, for taking the time and being with us tonight. We appreciate that. If we could have roll call, please.
Councilpersons Breeding. Higgins.
Present.
Kelsey.
Here.
Parkinson.
Here.
Ross. Here. Salcido.
Here.
And Mayor Carnes.
Here.
Thanks for moving back.
Okay, so had a busy weekend this this past, or especially on Sunday, in which first first we had a grand opening of an urgent care that is at 25880 Outer Drive. It's next to so it's at the corner of Fort and Outer Drive. You have the liquor store, the party store, and then behind that is a car care place. And then the behind the car care place is where this new urgent care is. It had a regular health care place before, but now it's an urgent one. It was Councilman Kelsey was there, and Councilman Ross also attended. Very nice facility. So if you are in need, give it a shot and stop by there. And then later on that same afternoon, we had the Downtown Development Authority's Chocolate Walk, the 6th annual. It didn't seem that long ago, but it was 6 years. There were 20 businesses ranging from the Park Restaurant, the Steel Trap, Chesley's, you had the Noodle House, you had McCafferty's was all part of it. 20, and of course Calder's Dairy gave out chocolate milk, so you got to love that place. But it was an opportunity to go in and to see what the businesses are all about. To take a look at the owner, whoever works there. I think Tim Hortons was there also, and to see what they have to offer. So it was a great plan. I know that a lot of the council that took part in that. I don't know exactly who and what. I know Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey were out there. The Ross family was there. Mr. Higgins was busy doing that. I didn't. My wife and I, we finished all, but we weren't the first one. I think we were like 12th back or something like that. But it was a nice event. There was no cost for you to participate in that, and if you have an opportunity next year, give it a shot. Even our cameraman was there, Don, but he didn't make it through all of them because I guess he got wore out. But that's what happens. But my obligation here is to. Well, I'd say this event primarily is put on by Maureen Tobin in conjunction with the DDA, and she was helping out as event coordinator as we were still looking for a DDA EDC director. The event started out and ended in the Park Restaurant, and it was very well run this year. I just have that to say. And they had, for participating, everyone that went to all of the 20 businesses, completed it, and returned back, had everything verified, then you were entered into a drawing, which was worth a couple $100, and it's just different things from the 20 businesses that they put together for that. And so, without further ado, I've been advised that Shelby King was the winner of this. And she can make arrangements by coming into and talking to the event coordinator, or as far as I know, she might have already gotten this. So, but Shelby King. Very good. Hey, congratulations to her. All right. And speaking of events for the city, we have this one, which is the second annual. Can't have a first annual, but you can definitely have a second annual. And this is the Ultimate Comfort Food Contest. And it's on March 21st. And why I'm getting this out so early is because you need an opportunity to figure out what you're going to enter in. There are, I think there's 14 entries that are available for each of the 3 different sections. There's a chili cook-off, there's mac and cheese, and then there is a dessert cook-off. There is a $2 admission to get in over at Room A, I believe this is. And it's from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. If you feel brave enough or think that yours is absolutely the best, it's going to cost you $20 to submit and to prove that. So if you need more information, it's going to be mtobin@citylp.com, or you call the 386-1400 no, that's got to be 386-1800 and extension 1400. So 386-1400, extension 1440. And there's flyers all around to get the more information that come down. I was not a victor last year, so but we can try and do it, take care of business here. Over at the Lincoln Park High School, they are opening, and they have had since the beginning of the year, in conjunction with the Henry Ford Health Systems, a clinic that is inside of the school itself that will take certain people that are in the area that can come in there. But primarily it's for students if they are ill, or their families can come in at a reduced rate, or I think for the students it's probably 0 rate. As long as they have a slip that is signed, they can go in there and get care. But they have a grand opening is going to be coming up, I think on March 3rd. I'll have to let you know about how it works for the public and if people can come in there. But it's something that is great for the students that are at the school, because if you remember the days of a school nurse, they really can't do much for you. Here, they can take care of shots. They can full service. And with that, I think that we will go on to the consent agenda.
I saw it.
That's through somewhere. Resolved that the following items listed in the consent agenda be approved as presented to the mayor and city council. 1, approved minutes, regular meeting held February 3, 2020. 2, approved minutes, special meeting held February 3 at 6 p.m. regarding closed session labor negotiations. 3, approved minutes, public hearing held February 3, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. regarding proposed CDBG budget. 4, approved subrecipient agreement, Senior Alliance.
Support.
Discussion? Clerk call the roll, please.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Okay, so we have the state revolving fund financing ordinance authorization. As information will go enclosed, please find the bond ordinance we prepared for consideration by City Council at its meeting on Tuesday, February 18th. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of the above captioned bond to be sold to the Michigan Finance Authority through the state of Michigan, through the State Revolving Fund, SRF program, scheduled to close on March 27. The ordinance was prepared by SRF program requirements and certain specifications provided by Bedzinski and Company, Municipal Finance Advisors, and the city's financial advisor. The ordinance authorizes the issuance of the bonds in the amount not to exceed $2,510,000. Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy will approve the final amount of the bond next week when they issue the order of approval for the project. The amount of the bond issue cannot exceed the project amount approved by Eagle. The bond is secured primarily by a pledge of net revenues by the city's water and sewer system. The full faith and credit of the city is also pledged as an additional security and permitted under the SRF program. Should the net revenues of the system be insufficient to pay debt services on the bonds, the city would be obligated to pay such amount from its general fund and levy taxes if necessary. Okay. An ordinance to provide for the acquisition, construction, furnishing, and equipment of improvements to the existing water and sewer system in the city of Lincoln Park, to provide for the issuance and sale of revenue bonds to pay the cost thereof, to prescribe the form of the bond, to provide for the retirement and security of the bonds herein authorized, and to provide other matters relating to the bond and the system. part of this. It's resolved that the ordinance 2020-1 be adopted by title only.
We'll move for discussion.
Support.
Okay, discussion?
I just, if it's all right with everyone, I would like the language to at least say that be given immediate effect in the body of the bond issue. It says, it doesn't follow our normal procedure where it has to be published first and everything else. It takes immediate effect, so I think that the adoption should include that language. And I was very pleased in here, the interest rate cannot exceed 2%. This is something that we're really being mandated to do. We don't really have any authority, so it says that the bond, the percentage rate will not exceed 2%, so I was pleased with that.
Is that good with?
Through the
order?
chair, I concur, no problem.
Further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Over the past several months, I'll say several weeks, there's been discussions on, in meetings on the sign ordinance. So here are the, this item has, next item has a cover letter from John Myers, our building official for the city. The purpose of this request is to make amendments to the sign ordinance, chapter 1482.07. The purpose and intent of the sign ordinance amendment is to create the legal framework for a comprehensive balanced system of regulating signs and outdoor advertising and to clarify timeframes and compliance requirements. These amendments are intended to provide clarity for existing signage presently prohibited and otherwise, as well as the new sign designs not presently regulated. So resolved that an ordinance to amend Part 14 of the codified ordinances for the City of Lincoln Park, Title VI, by repealing and replacing Chapter 1476 signs be given its first and second reading by title only. The City of Lincoln Park ordains that Part 14 of the codified ordinances for the City of Lincoln Park, Title VI, Chapter 1476 be amended by repealing and replacing it with a new Chapter 1476 entitled Signs.
So moved.
For discussion.
Support.
We are repealing and replacing an entire chapter. Has anyone gone through to see exactly if portions of this are currently in there? This has to be codified, it has to be printed, it has to be published in the newspaper. There's not enough money in the clerk's budget to publish all this and to have it codified. Has anyone gone through and at least compared it to what's currently existing, or is it really everything thrown out? I mean, it's so out of whack and so changed that we have to
We have John Myers
do it
from
all.
building official.
Mayor and council, first may I make one correction? The beginning of your reading, it states this is chapter 14.8.2, and it actually should be 14.7.6. Is that correct? All right, in the ordinance. And to answer your question, every section that we have put in this document has been modified some way or another.
All right.
Every single one of them. That's why it's been months in the writing.
Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I know that I sent John an email about the acronyms. Are we going to have those put in?
It's to your prerogative. It's not probably necessary because they're written elsewhere in the sign ordinance or that section of the ordinance. It's also signed in the zoning ordinances to which category, but if it's the preference of the council, it can be done, but it's elsewhere written in detail and definition in the zoning ordinance. No.
Could we add them to like one of the formats as a key then?
We can, by your request, but I'm just saying it's elsewhere it is also written in our zoning.
Through the chair, Your Honor, I agree this needs to be done. A lot of people look at these ordinances and they're not written already in English, they're written in legalese, so a lot of people are coming in and trying to do the right thing, and they're not understanding the ordinance. And I know that has had a lot of the problems that we have built with the building department in the past. And any way that we can simplify it for the average person is good.
Well, each of the different groups are listed in the definition.
Correct.
At the beginning, but it suffices to have a referral to the definitions for what these items are.
I didn't find them in the definitions section. That was the problem.
We can get that put in. It's not, we'll just take it out of the zoning ordinance, which defines all the districts that we have in our zoning, because that's where it would be defined. So we didn't put it in the signs exclusive as a memorandum to the listing of sign ordinances.
So you could
Transfer.
write out what the zoning area is, and then in parentheses, then use that.
If you want to test, we can see if I remember them all now. No, I'm just kidding. Don't go there.
Through the chair, if I may, I agree. I think it should be more spelled out, so and I agree with Councilman Higgins and Councilwoman Ross, that the simpler we make it, because it's easier. And we're gonna do this, it's gonna cost, like, I think, pro temps a lot of money to do this. Why not do it and just go ahead and make it, spend a little bit more and make it
Thoroughly.
as simple as possible.
Okay, so,
If that's.
Madam Clerk, do we need to amend the,
He can, yeah, during the final reading, he'll make those changes, and then it'll come back to you for the final reading in the amended form.
nothing
Okay.
further that we have to do
Not tonight.
today?
No, he
Okay.
has his.
Mayor, may I ask for clarification of what you're asking for us to rewrite?
You have as I understand it, you have the abbreviations for the different zoning areas.
That's the only thing you want us to rate?
You want it to be spelled out what that area is.
Councilman Higgins was asking for more, and you were asking for density or clarity of not legalized words, but common words?
No, just the.
No,
Yeah, just the,
what MBD stands for.
Oh, yes.
Or whatever.
That's easy enough. I can do that.
Okay. Is
Thank
there
you.
Further discussion? Or call the roll?
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Gotcha. All right, our next three items have the same cover letter from our interim, soon-to-be ex, city manager, I imagine. Subject resolutions approving employment agreements, chief of police, deputy chief of police, fire chief. The employment agreements for the chief of police, the deputy chief of police, and the fire chief are renewed every 2 years. The three agreements are similarly aligned with the benefits that are provided to either the police command union or the fire union, respective to the department they administrate. There was an allowance added to the fire chief's agreement for his duties as the director of emergency management. Okay. So, whereas the city must renew the employment agreement with the fire chief, and whereas the interims,
First time, sorry.
yes,
Sorry. Yes. Got my mouth.
with the fire chief, and whereas the interim city manager recommends the adoption of the attached employment agreement with Fire Chief Steve Martin. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council approve the employment agreement by and between the city of Lincoln Park and the Fire Chief Stephen Martin, and be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute said employment agreement on behalf of the city of Lincoln Park.
So moved.
Support with a discussion.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Only problem I have is that as a council, we should have at least to have a discussion with whoever negotiated that before we get to this. So we have a closed door to discuss, because we give direction to the city management to how they ask the negotiations or comment. I don't believe this happened on this one. And I think that kind of takes the authority away from the council, where we should be involved right up front before we get to this point, so we have some idea why we're giving the raise, what the rationale was, and we have a discussion about that so we can go over that. And I think that's my only complaint, that I don't think we were. Okay, and I don't remember having a meeting on the fire chief's contract till I seen it today. Actually, I saw it Friday when we get it in the packet. That's not directed any more than to management, to say that I think that the council has a right and an obligation, because we control the budget, to be involved at the discussion after the attorney comes back to us and asks us what we're looking for, what the issue is, and what we should be giving to the individual. And then we obviously sit down with the contract and we go from there. That's my complaint, I
If I
guess.
may,
Yes, ma'am.
I agree. I mean, my understanding is that the city management, prior to this, did sit down with these individuals, but it should have come back to mayor and council so that they were at least made abreast of what is going on and what was being offered, or why it was not, benefits were not being offered or whatever. I agree that somewhere along the line, we have lost all of the connection between mayor and council, and labor or whatever. So I agree with the councilman. We need to at least be updated,
Chair?
even if it's a simple little, had a meeting with so-and-so and this is what's on the table.
Yes, sir.
I agree with Councilman Kelsey. We've discussed this before. It just keeps getting bypassed and bypassed and bypassed. Well, I think it's come to a head now, and I think it really should, nothing should be done without council being aware of what's going on.
Your Honor, through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I was here when the first city council, first appointed a city manager, and it was made clear at that time that this was to be come back to the council before there would be brought on the floor for a vote. And it should be. And I have nothing against any of these individuals. I want to make that very clear. I think we have some very good men working for us right now. But this should come before the council till it gets to this point.
Through the chair, Your Honor, I don't know if Mr. Zek can answer.
Yes, go
I
ahead.
do have a couple of questions. If I'm not mistaken, does the fire chief have a city vehicle? Because it wasn't mentioned in here if he does. And my second question, if you can give me maybe next week or 2 weeks, the emergency management duties. Emergency management duties. What are those duties? I didn't see those in the website or here. So I didn't see the vehicle, or next time we'll do that.
The fire chief has a vehicle that he uses, and I certainly can provide you, because that's the only part of this particular contract that I had anything to do with. The bulk of the contract was handled by my predecessor, and he had these items and discussions with these three gentlemen prior to his departure for his new job. But I was involved with adding to the fire chief the fact that he was selected to be the coordinator when there's an emergency called, whether it have to be a weather emergency or power outage or whatever, as this was a new duty for him, and I recommended that he receive some additional compensation if he's going to accept that task. And but I would be glad to provide to you, and real quickly, what falls under that, for lack of better words, we'll call it a job description of the emergency coordinator.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
I think the emergency management coordinator is under FEMA, if I'm not mistaken. So doesn't that money actually come from the state?
It can,
Yes.
if an emergency is granted by the governor and by the federal government, reimbursement can happen for some of these things. Pardon me. But if the city applies for emergency status to the state, and the state applies to the federal government for coverage for not just Lincoln Park, but perhaps for a region because of a flood or a terrible storm or something of that sort, and it's approved, then some money can come back to the city for cleanup and one thing and another. But if If it is not approved at the state level or the federal level, then any overtime the city is working, anything the city is doing, that is not recoverable. It comes out of the city's budget.
Well, I believe Jim Rulo, who was the coordinator before, half his money came from FEMA, and the other half the city. He was what else is his duties? I can't remember right off now, but
Cable.
half.
Cable Commission.
Cable Commission. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, cable.
Chair.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that person at all, sir. And, when I got here in September, Matt was working with Mr. Waters, Mr. Klokovich, and Mr. Martin on a new contract. The contract was, for all intents and purposes, done prior to his leaving. All the staff was waiting for was for the arbitrator to give us a ruling on another matter that had some impact on these contracts. Once that ruling was made by the arbitrator, then the HR manager and myself and the labor attorney, we finished up the contracts and brought them forward. Whether to be frank, I thought that there was conversation between yourselves and the manager about what was his parameters to work with. We certainly asked you for those parameters when we were talking about some other labor issues. I understand your concerns relative to being apprised. I've tried to keep you up to date on things in my capacity. But these are very deserving individuals, and I hope you'll approve the agreements. But if you want to hold them until you can get a briefing by the labor attorney and myself and the HR manager, we understand this is your prerogative.
Further discussion? I know that there's a member of the audience that wanted to speak, or no longer wants to speak, yes? So further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Okay, the next one is, whereas the city must renew the employment agreement with the chief of police, and whereas the interim city manager recommends the adoption of the attached employment agreement with the chief of police, Raymond Waters. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and city council approve the employment agreement by and between the city of Lincoln Park and the chief of police, Raymond Waters, and be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute said employment agreement on behalf of the city of Lincoln Park.
Support.
Discussion?
Through the chair, my same complaint, I guess, without going over it.
Okay. Anything further? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. And lastly of this group, whereas the city must renew the employment agreement with the deputy chief of police, and whereas the interim city manager recommends the adoption of the attached employment agreement with deputy chief of police Richard Klokovich. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and city council approve the employment agreement by and between the city of Lincoln Park and deputy chief of police Richard Klokovich, and be it further resolved that the mayor is authorized to execute said employment agreement on behalf of the city of Lincoln Park.
So moved. Support.
Okay, discussion?
Same complaint.
Again.
And Your Honor, through the chair, I concur with Councilman Kelsey. Same situation.
Okay, anything further? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. This next item also has a cover letter from our interim city manager, Mr. Zach. It has to do with the building official. The last time the building official received a salary increase was January of 2018, which was 1.5%. His salary had been $68,500 and is now at $69,527.50. After reviewing the salaries for building officials in the area, I respectfully recommend the salary be raised to $74,000 retroactive January 1, 2020. I believe this recommendation is fair and warranted. In addition, I believe the building official should become part of the Lincoln Park Administrators Association. This would place him in the company of Community Planning and Development Director, Parks and Recreation Director, the Finance and Operations Director, and the Public Services Director. Like them, he would be reviewed every other year beginning January of 2021. Whereas the city presently employs a building department manager and is desirous of placing the position in the Administrators Association. Whereas the city recently completed negotiations with its bargaining units, which included the creation of additional paid holiday, which the city seeks to extend to members of the association. And whereas the city and the members of the Administrators Association have agreed to amend their agreement. Now therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and city council approve the amendment to the Administrators Association agreement as follows. 1, effective January 1, 2020, Article 3 wages shall be amended to include the position of building department manager at an annual salary of $74,000. 2, Article 4, holidays shall be amended to include Good Friday as a paid holiday for members of the association. 3, the remaining provisions of the association agreement shall remain in effect as provided in the association agreement dated 01/02/2019 to January 1st of 2021. Be it further resolved that John Myers be and is hereby appointed to the position of building department manager for the duration of the agreement.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
What? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just have a question if anybody has a problem with him being director of the building department instead of manager?
I like the title of director myself. I have no problem with that.
I got, through the chair, if you're all set.
Yeah, if we could just change that to director, I'll be happy.
Oh, I see, it says manager.
There's an ordinance that covers this. You've got to be careful. There's an
sorry.
ordinance that covers this
Okay.
position. So unless we're going to amend ordinances and
Okay.
whatever.
Okay.
There was a reason that it was made that, and it had to do with the former DPS. Anyways, I'm just,
All right.
the ordinance. So I don't know if you want to amend an ordinance or,
Whatever the council's pleasure is.
Not especially.
okay. Okay.
The important thing is I believe he belongs in the same grouping with the
Yes.
DPS director, the finance director, operations director, and with the person that runs the community development and planning, in addition to also being the parks director. And to create that group of administrators so that there's no question about what their benefits are, what their holidays are, how they're treated, and that they're in that every other year cycle of being evaluated and reviewed and reappointed.
Well, director makes better sense, and so if you make a note of your,
We'll discuss.
your following person here
Yep,
that,
yep.
because that we can always catch up later on.
We'll be talking about it tomorrow, 10 o'clock.
Okay, further discussion?
Yeah,
with
question through the chair.
Yes, sir.
2 questions, actually. It says here that his salary is effective January 2020. The contract will, in 1 year it expires, so he'll be up for a contract next year for a raise and all that again, right?
Correct.
Because he'll fall into that 2-year plan. Okay, I'm just making sure, because we gave him a pretty good raise, and now a year later, we're gonna go, that's what I'm just asking, because
Yep.
we jumped it up pretty high, which is, I'm not arguing, but just saying next year. I mean, I wish I had a contract like this, but anyways, it says here, it says Good Friday as a paid holiday for members of the association. Does everybody get that, or just he's gonna get it because they got it? The way it sounds like you're giving everybody the
Right.
holiday, am I right? The way I read that?
Yes.
Well, that's not, that's not what we're talking about. Why are we giving everybody in the association, their contract's not up yet? I'm just asking.
Well, I would think that because of my understanding
Sure.
of it, and Mr. Zek, correct me if I'm not right, but most of the bargaining units have been given Good Friday through this, and you're attempting to catch up the
Association.
the association to bring them equal to what everyone else has already received.
That is true.
So-
And if I need to understand the way it happens here better, then we'll make the necessary paperwork changes and bring them to you relative to the finance director, the public services director, et cetera. But seeing as we were putting him in that association, this would seem to me to be the right time to put that right into the agreement for him. If that requires separate motions for the other members of that association, then I will yield to the city attorney and the labor lawyer as far as how that should be worked.
Well, that's,
I haven't got my law degree yet, but I'll,
Because City Hall is going to be closed that day, correct?
yeah, but what I'm confused about is we're negotiating two separate contracts here in the same document.
Yes.
You're not only, and I've done contracts for a long time, and I know Carlos has, through the chair. And what I'm getting at is, that don't even sound like good business, because now you're saying not only am I gonna give it to him, but I'm gonna give it to everybody else who's not even up until 2021. That's all I'm saying, and I caught that, and I'm going, does that say what it says? I think that should come out of there, and that's a separate thing. I mean, that's my opinion, because I'm not gonna vote if that's in there for everybody, because that's not, we didn't even discuss that. This was simply a contract for him. I mean, that's my opinion. I'll leave that where it's at.
okay.
I mean, I don't know what everybody, I mean, I'm not the majority, I'm just the person that
Chair.
says,
Now that you've said that, Larry, Councilman,
yeah.
all right, if it was given to the DPS and the clerical and all these
Yeah.
other, the GELC and everything else through negotiations, then this group would not benefit by that until it's time to renegotiate and their appointments the next time around. I don't want to fault them and have them come to work when no one else is here, but
Right.
there has to be some kind of a dividing line as far as date-wise and everything else. So I don't believe that this should be adding benefits to that whole group, plus the building official over here setting his salary. I think they should have been two separate entities. Granted, it had to be an agreement saying that that this association did not disagree with the salary and admitting him into that bargaining unit, that association. But as far as granting an additional day off, paid day off or whatever, if it's not even their time, it's just, I don't know.
Well, if you look at it like the way, and I have no skin in this game either way, but if you enter into negotiations to attempt to have an additional party put into there, I could understand where you might want to give them something in that process as a part of the negotiation process to get them to come into that. Now, and it could be that he is looking to make peace, not peace, but to build up morale and stuff with all of the administration. So I don't know that I don't think that it's a bad idea. I don't know about the legalese of it, but it's just trying to make everybody up to the same holidays.
Well, through the chair,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that, but it's embedded, and I'm gonna say it the way it is, it's embedded in something else. And if I didn't catch that, we would all agree because we think he's getting the same holiday everybody else is getting, and they're not getting it. And I think the legal way to do it, and Ed's not a labor attorney, and I'll give Ed that, but the labor attorney, I think there should be a separate document. If they want to bring something back and say, we want to renegotiate the Good Friday, because nobody's here, blah, 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 I don't have a problem with it. That's clear, it's open, it's concise, but that happens when we don't sit down before these contracts come before us and have a chance to discuss this where we're supposed to discuss it. Well, anyways, I'm in with that. That's where I'm at.
What,
I mean, I don't have any
what is
problem
it that
coming.
we,
I
I'm
would
sorry.
like to offer an amendment
okay,
to eliminate Article 2, Section number 2 out of this employment association agreement, this revised, what are we calling it? Letter of agreement and First Amendment, to eliminate the paragraph 2. So that means that the building official has to work on Good Friday this time.
Well, I'm sorry, through the chair, he just won't get paid for it. That's what it means. He don't have to work it, he just won't get paid for it.
on salary anyway.
Yeah, I'm through the chair, that's what my
So we have
impression
to
is.
vote on the amendment, or?
I have a mover for the amendment.
I'll support the amendment.
Okay, so we have to take action on the amendment.
Is there any more, are you going to call for more discussion? Do you want to just call for
Is there more discussion? Did you want discussion on the amendment or of the motion as a whole?
Motion as a whole.
Okay, then we'll go ahead with the amendment part of it.
Okay.
Call the roll, sorry.
Okay, so the amendment is to eliminate number 2 from the amendment to the Administrators Association agreement. Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
No.
Through the
All
chair.
right, then we're going to, yes, sir.
I just want to state at this point that I am, and I have said this before on the council floor, I'm going to say it again. I want to make a public statement that I am not happy about and it was said we're going to be negotiating again with the department heads, and it's going to be right after an election. That got this city into problems before, and it shouldn't be that way. And they were changed in the past, so that did not happen. And I'm going to publicly say that I am in favor of, we've gotten ourselves now to the point where we're going to have to negotiate it this time, but I want that negotiated so that it doesn't happen in the future. People who have been around here a long time will know what I'm talking about. This gives a new mayor and council who may be elected on dubious reasons to appoint people who may not be able to handle the job. It has happened in the past, and I don't want to leave that option open for future elected officials.
All right, is there further discussion
No,
from council?
through the chair, I have to agree with Councilman Higgins on that. I think I know what he's talking about on that statement.
To the chair,
That's just me.
didn't they put a 3-year term in at one time so that they would fall on the odd years?
Yes, they did. They changed, the councils were changed for a 3-year one term, and so that messed that up. And I've said repeatedly since I've been back that we have to change now the appointment times.
Then I think we should get a resolution to change the
Through the
appointment
chair.
times.
Well, we are getting far afield here, folks.
Yep.
This is not what
Have
we're
another
talking about
resolution.
here. That's not what we're talking about. Anything further in reference to this, this resolution
As amended.
as amended? I'm getting, okay, then, sir, go ahead.
Good evening, Richard Kudrak. I apologize if you answered my email. I didn't see the response. You're talking about vacations. I sent you an email today. And the email said, do all full-time city employees have the same vacation? Holiday schedule. Scratch that vacation. And I says the contract for the fire chief, police chief, and deputy chief had the same holiday schedule. And I want to know, did all city employees, full-time city employees, have the same holiday schedule? And it seems like they don't. It looks like it's by work unit or whatever. How does that work, folks? As the Mayor Pro Tem said, you could have somebody working because it's not their holiday and somebody else is off. I don't know how you do this.
Well, it starts with the first unit gets that accepted into it, and then the others, as they're negotiated through, will then have it added to it. So it's a process that takes a while to get everybody incorporated into it. But it's our intent to have everybody have that.
Over time, every work unit has the same holidays?
Yes,
That's the goal?
that's the goal.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir. All right. Anything further discussion? Call the roll, please.
So this will be on the original resolution
Resolution
with
as
the
amended.
amendment.
With
Okay?
the-
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. That one. Next item has a cover letter from our interim city manager, Mr. Zeck, also. Human Resource Manager. The last time the Human Resource Manager received a salary increase was January of 2018, which was a 1.5% increase. Her salary had been $50,000, now it is $50,750. After reviewing salaries for human resource directors and managers in the area, I respectfully recommend that she receive an increase to $54,500 retroactive to January 1, 2020. I believe this recommendation is fair and warranted as she did not receive an increase in January of 2019. So whereas the city must renew the employment agreement with the Human Resources Manager, and whereas the interim city manager recommends the adoption of the attached employment agreement with the Human Resources Manager, Jennifer Richardson. Now therefore be it resolved, the mayor and council approve the employment agreement by and between the city of Lincoln Park and the Human Resource Manager, Jennifer Richardson. And be it further resolved that the mayor and city clerk are authorized to execute said employment agreement on behalf of the city of Lincoln Park.
So move for the discussion.
Support. Go ahead, sir.
Well, I got a couple problems with this. One of it, there's no end date to this. If you read the first thing, it says, "This agreement shall remain in effect and serve to memorialize the terms and conditions applicable to the Human Resource Manager, continuous from the date of the agreement." There's no end date. There's no anniversary date. There's nothing. That's the first issue I got. The second issue is that she will be compensated in the annual amount of $54,500, which is, the Human Resource Manager shall receive pay and benefits as provided to members of the Lincoln Park Administrators Association. I mean, the Administrators Association negotiates a contract every 2 years, and in that they have certain common benefits, okay? The problem I got is that these annual or semi-annual raises are based upon what we think they do, or a reward for being not only a very good employee, but a challenged employee. Sometimes they have things that they have to go through. I have some questions about this, and again, this position, and again, this is one of these things where nobody had a meeting prior to this to have a discussion so we could talk about this. So I am going to, I'd like to have this tabled until I want a discussion further with the city manager about some concerns I have. It's not going to hurt this person because it goes back to, it's not going to take any money out of their pocket. But I think I need a more clarification of what this job does, because as we sat here, she's a manager, but we always got told that the city manager is the HR director, and every time we have a question, it's the city manager that answers it, and the manager will send us a letter, the human resource, but doesn't come to the council meeting. That's one of the concerns I got. I like to talk to somebody face to face. I have a problem with communication. I mean, I just don't, it's great, but it doesn't work. The other issue is we spend a lot of money on a labor attorney, and I want to find out why. And I know they negotiate the contracts, I know we talk to them, but I want to, as an HR person, at least where I used to come from, the HR person negotiated the contract except for the legal stuff where the attorney from higher up. In other words, if there was a question about the contract, say the firefighters called her, or called HR, and HR says, well, I don't think this part of the contract is correct. HR would say, well, I sat in negotiations, my notes say it isn't, with the way you're saying it, and they would argue or discuss, then it would go through the grievance procedure. But if we're calling the attorney every time we turn around, what I'm asking for is what kind of detail are we having the HR person do, and why is our labor contract seeming to be awful high? Now, I understand they come in, and I understand they negotiate certain things, but the reason, part of the job of an HR manager is to do the contracts. We have, 7 or 8 of them? So we have a lot of contracts that we have. They sit in there, they take notes. I'm not saying anything out of school, that's the way it is. And so my question is, I guess, I'm trying to get a better definition. I had this discussion with Matt, so this is nothing new I'm not saying, about the same concern. Anyways, I'd like to table this until there's further discussion on it. That's my opinion. I'm not trying to take anything away, but before I keep going down this road, just like the fact that how come we weren't notified? Now, if HR is part with the labor attorney, how come they're not notifying us?
So are you?
I mean, that's where I'm going at, Mayor.
No, not to interrupt, but
No, I'm sorry,
are
yes.
you moving to table this?
Yes, sir. I don't know
Is
if
there
I can
a
do that, or do you have?
specific?
Yeah.
Is there a
It
specific?
wouldn't be a specific date, you just motion to table.
Motion to
Okay.
table. We need
Yeah, I support that, Larry.
It's not discussable.
Yes, you're right.
I'm discussing it now. Ready?
On the motion to table.
On the motion to table.
Okay. Call the roll.
Councilpersons Kelsey,
Yes.
Parkinson,
Yes.
Breeding,
Yes.
Higgins,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Okay, so that
That is
is
tabled.
All right, and then John Zeck Day. This cover letter is from him also, and Public Services Director. So it's coming to work for you in September of 2019. I've come to realize for various reasons, the Public Service Director works more overtime than is common. I believe this is a result of the following factors, which is aging infrastructure, unusual weather events, and inexperienced supervisors. Consequently, we recommend that he receive a salary increase of $1,800 retroactive to January 1, 2020. His current salary is $76,500. With a salary increase, if approved, it raised him to $78,300. I realize he received a salary increase of $1,500 effective January 1, 2020. However, given the factors I've listed, I believe the recommendation is fair and warranted. All right, so whereas the city wishes to amend the Administrators Association employment agreement by increasing the salary for the Director of Public Works by $1,800 annually, therefore be resolved that the mayor and council approve amending the Administrators Association agreement by increasing the salary of the Director of Public Works, John Kazoo, to $78,300.
So move for discussion.
Support.
All right, discussion?
I would like to offer an amendment. The salary that for the Department of Public Services, he's in charge of an awful lot of duties, an awful lot of men, awful lot of problems down there with snow events, so forth and so on. I think his salary is out of line as far as the work that's involved, the men that's involved, the work, whatever. And so I would like to offer an amendment. I would like to offer by granting him, this is what I have. Whereas the city wishes to amend the Administrative Association Employment Agreement by granting a wage adjustment. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council approve amending the Administrator Association Agreement by adjusting the salary for the Department of Public Works, Director of Public Works, John Kazoo, to $85,500.
I'll support that.
So discussion on the amendment?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a point here. Out of all the raises you saw here tonight, the Department of Public Services has been discussed since late summer that I recall, that he's been shorthanded, he lost his superintendent, we've been trying to give him help, we've been talking about it the whole time. So I will speak in favor of this motion amendment.
Through the chair, Councilman Carlos is correct. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've had numerous discussions with Matt before he left. We've had discussions with John Zeck. I know I have anyways. I know other people have expressed concern. And if you look at the salaries, he's still below the ones, and he's one of the largest departments we have. And because of the new federal rules that come out with, state, federal, with water and everything else he's responsible for, and overlooking the contractors, even though we pay them to do their job, he overlooks them and all that. I think it's definitely warranted, and it's definitely about time that we bring him up, and that's the way I feel about it. And I speak in favor of the amendment, excuse me.
Your Honor, through the chair, I also would like to speak in favor of the amendment. The licensing that the man has to hold to keep the city running, and keeping things on top of things, he has done a supreme job, and he deserves this raise.
Further discussion on the amendment? Personally, I think it's too much money. You're going to get to the point where the inexperienced number 2 and number 3 position is going to be able to carry their weight, so to speak. And so the amount of overtime should not be that. But hearing what others have said. I guess that's the way it's going. So any further discussion on the amendment itself?
Well, I think the DP has been shorted for years. So I think with John's qualifications, he's got an engineering degree, and all the different things he's got to do, I think he well deserves that money.
Okay, or his predecessor, because he has resigned, right? But,
Yep.
all right, so further discussion on the amendment? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
No. So then discussion on the, is there further discussion on the motion as amended? And clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
No. Okay. Now we have a cover letter from our building manager, John Myers. Purpose, authorization for the demolition of city-owned property located at 1086 White. 1086 White was acquired from Wayne County on 2/20 of 17 and has been boarded up since. All utilities were cut in May of 2017. The structure is not habitable and it's in its current state and should be demolished. So whereas the city acquired 1086 White from Wayne County on February 20, 2017, and whereas all the utilities have been cut in May of 2017 and the structure is not habitable, therefore be it resolved that the city-owned structure located at 1086 White be demolished.
So move.
Support.
Discussion?
Yes, through the chair. Do we need to put down, because obviously it's going to cost some money, do we have the money to do this right away? Or the amendment to, or the motion should read, as soon as the funds are available, or how do we do that? Because it doesn't have any time frame on this.
So we have
Maybe I'm wrong.
John
Maybe I read
Myers
something.
and Doreen Christian.
When you look at the next resolution going out to bid, that house is in it. We just didn't have the formality of allowing us to put that house in it, and that's the formality, so I can demo it with the next set of 3.
Okay, thank you. That's all I was asking. Thank you. Thank you, Doreen.
All right, further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Breeding? Kelsey?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Okay, so I didn't miss anything. did I? Okay, the next item, to solicit bids for the demolition of city-owned property located at 1360 Empire, 1923 Richmond, and 1086 White. City acquired 1360 Empire from the Wayne County Treasurer, 8/14/19, and Resolution 2019-419 to demolish was passed 10/21/19. 1923 Richmond was acquired on 2/2017 from Wayne County, and Resolution number 2020-014 to demolish was passed on January 6, 2020. 1086 White was acquired from Wayne County on 2/2017 and has been boarded up since. So, resolved that the Director of Community Plan and Development and Director of Public Services are authorized to solicit bids for the demolition of city-owned structures located at 1360 Empire, 1923 Richmond, and 1086 White. Funds to come from account number 249-044-962D and 249-045-962D Building Department demolition.
So move.
Support.
Discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Breeding?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. We have another cover letter from John Zeck. Early this year, during the discussions with regard to extending the city's contracts, U.S. Lawns, the city council expressed their concern about the appearance of the area in the front of the Kennedy Memorial Building and the community center. And as a result, I asked Dennis Anderson to meet with Councilman Higgins to get a better understanding of the area he and Councilman Parkinson and others have spoken about. Mr. Anderson then contacted Weed Eraser Incorporated of Taylor to ask for a quote and find a copy of it. Whereas the city of Lincoln Park requested quotes for non-carcinogenic herbicide for weed control services, whereas a qualifying quote was received from Weed Eraser Incorporated. Now therefore it be resolved that the mayor and city council authorize Weed Eraser to provide weed control services in the amount of $1,550, funds to come from account number 101-263-818. Be it further resolved that mayor and city clerk are authorized to sign any and all necessary documents.
So move. Support.
Discussion.
Yeah, in the discussion, first of all, being that the matter was under, I think, $5,000, it really wasn't necessary to bring it in mayor and council for approval, but from what I understand, they wanted it known that it was a non-carcinogenic herbicide that was being used, and therefore, I would imagine, safe for pets and for the drainage of the water and things, but.
And people.
And people.
I just want a clarification on the actual agreement. Now, this will take care of the weeds for the whole year 2020, for the whole year. If they have to come back out, there's not additional fees. If they have to come back out and respray if we're not happy with an area, correct?
So this is for one application.
Okay,
and
but
if-
it's
and if-
guaranteed to keep the weeds down for a year.
Well, and if there's some issue there, we'll be back in contact with Weed Eraser. I have what you have
Okay.
in terms of their pledge. And this is a company that, I'm told, does very good work. And I understand they work for the school district. And so if there's some issues, then, these areas are to be kept 95% free of all vegetation growth for the entire 2020 growing season. Touch-up application will be provided if necessary at no cost. Prices are good if main areas for 1 and 2 are accepted together. So that's important.
And that's how I read it,
And that's what it,
want to
and,
verify.
and I just wanted to make sure that you and the public that's in this room, as well as those that will watch this meeting in the future on television, know that we're talking about non-carcinogenic herbicide to be used, because there's so many people that are concerned about some of the products that are being used today that have had some medical effects to them.
Your Honor, through
Through
the
the
chair.
chair.
Go first, sir, go ahead.
I just want to assure the council president, this is the company that we use at the schools. This is what I do, and they do a good job. And they come in the spring. They come in the spring, and we don't have a problem the rest of the summer. So,
Yes, sir.
That answered my question, Mike. Since you are familiar with the company, I just want to know how good they were. Thank you.
I have a question, Your Honor. So, just to be clear, Mr. Zach, touch-up application does not mean they'll do the whole thing all over again. It just means they'll come back for whatever spots.
Correct?
And who determines that? Who will make that call?
We will call them.
Okay.
Between Noreen at the Kennedy Memorial Building and Dennis at the community center, and they were both involved with working on this with me.
Okay.
We'll stay on it.
Okay.
And then if there's an issue, we'll call them. And they want your business.
Okay.
They want you to bring them back next year and the following year, et cetera. And so if they're the kind of company that we've been led to believe they are by their references, we should have no problem.
Through the chair, Your Honor.
These two buildings are the public face of the city. That's where most
Right.
of our residents go to and see it. So it's important that they represent the city well.
Yeah, just briefly, real quick, in regards to what were they charging originally for weed removal? Were they gonna defer that cost into this, or?
Nobody did it.
No, didn't it say in the original contract they were gonna have weed control, or just?
That's U.S. law.
yeah, it's
No,
through the chair.
This was, we've had no contract with anybody for weed
Because I
removal.
thought U.S. Lawns was doing weed control. All right,
No.
I'm over.
Trimming and stuff, probably. We have further discussion? All right, clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. Next item we have is a cover letter from John Gassoud, Director of the Department of Public Services. And extension of Hutch Paving Incorporated Asphalt Resurfacing Program 2019 contract unit rates. Hutch Paving Incorporated, Warren, Michigan, was the City of Lincoln Park's paving contractor for the asphalt resurfacing program Phase 2 work for the 2019 asphalt season. They have offered to extend their contract in unit rates from the 2019 contract to the year 2020 asphalt season. Oh, lost it there for a second. Resolved, the mayor and city council hereby extend 2020 asphalt resurfacing project with Hutch Paving Incorporated, Warren, Michigan, for the 2020 asphalt season at the existing 2019 contractual rates. Resolved that the mayor and council authorize the funds to be taken from roads capital account number 450-000-818-000.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
And through the chair,
I'm sorry.
Well, I'm curious, John, why we wouldn't go out to bids. What was the value of last year's contract?
Last year's value, or this year's value is going to be between eight and 900,000. And Hutch Paving was a low red in 2019 for a portion of the asphalt paving. They offered to the city, rather than the city putting it out for bid in 2020, they would hold their low red prices from last year. You do have the opportunity to say, yes, we're in favor of that, and use the 2019 prices, or reject it and say, no, we'd rather have it go out to bid in 2020.
Close, $1 million, all right,
Yeah.
900,000? Okay, who else had discussion?
I think John answered my question, because it says here, fiscal impact, there is a fiscal impact in extending their contract. What John said, obviously, we're gonna pay them, it's not free, we're just extending the contract, it's gonna come out. And he answered the question, thank you, that's what I have.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kazoo,
Yes.
were we happy with their work?
Yes, we were. They've actually done the work for the last 2 years. I don't know if you recall, but 2 years ago, we did have a problem with some of their, I'm going to call them delivery trucks, tracking tack coat out onto Fort Street. They did clean it up, but last year, everything went well, very well.
Personally, in discussion with something that's going to be almost $1 million, 900,000, I'd be more comfortable if we did go through the bid process. But further discussion?
Your Honor, that is what I was wanting to point out. Time and time again, we're bringing stuff to the council and not going back out for bid. And there's a reason that you go out for bid. And this could be a low price, or, if they want to give us this price, they can turn around and give it to us again in a sealed bid. I believe we should go out for bid.
If I may, through the chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Because it was just a 1 year, I mean, if the last time we'd gone out for bid was 2017 or 2018 or whatever, then I'd say, no, it's time to look to compare prices. But if they're willing to honor the 2019,
Just last year.
we all know that prices of everything has gone up. In my opinion, I think we should go ahead and honor this, accept this with the 2019 contract, fees, but then next year, definitely keep in mind, next year it should go out for bid or whatever, but that's my opinion.
Through the chair, oh,
Well, further, is anyone else? Don't go back to Councilman Kelsey. Go ahead, sir.
no, I was just gonna say, Council Pro Tem Breedy made my argument for me. I feel the same way. If it was longer, and I agree with Councilman Higgins, if it was longer, yeah, but I don't know what the way prices are, and it's just been a 1 year, that's my opinion anyway, stay with the one. But you're right, if it was a 3-year contract, say 2017, and we had it for 3 years, and now it's 2020, Yeah, I would kind of look, even though I wasn't going to be hoping for anything, but I'd throw it out there and see what kind of fish we'd get. But I'd have to go for, at least this time, and it's a large, we don't have to worry about the bid process. They can come right in on the project. Our season for doing construction is really short anyways, and this looks like it's, we just had them last year. So it's not like, I mean, that's my opinion anyway.
Through the chair.
That's nice.
John said they're doing a really fantastic job. So that caps it off right there. I think that we should try them one more year. And like Councilwoman Breeding said, next year, call for bids.
Well, and just, it is almost $900,000, and a company that we had extended problems with just 2 years ago, where they created a large mess in 2 different sections of town and created a mess on Fort Street and on Dix. But that's how, is there further discussion?
Mayor, I have an obligation to disclose again, as I did the previous time you voted, that I've represented the employees and some of the managers at Hutch Paving in the past, not on contracts, but on other matters. And the ethics ordinance requires that to be pointed out. It's been some time, and it's been prior to their having contracts with the city. All the same, since I was part of the drafting of the ordinance, I feel I should let you know. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Councilpersons Kelsey,
Yes.
Parkinson,
Yes.
Breeding,
Yes.
Higgins,
No.
Ross,
Yes.
Salcido.
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
No. Okay, next item, we have resolved that special event permit number 1 be approved for McCafferty's Bar to hold a St. Patrick's Day Parade party at 4210 Fort Street, Lincoln Park, Michigan, on Tuesday, March 17th, 2020, from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. under the following conditions. 1, tent to be inspected by the fire department prior to use. 2, special event to cease at 11 p.m. per municipal code 666.04. 3, applicant shall be responsible for cleanup of all debris associated with event from surrounding properties. Motion. I can't read that part of it.
Nope. So move for discussion.
Support.
Oh, sorry.
Just a quick question. Carrie, pardon me, City Clerk? Before we have a notation that the fees had to be paid prior to the event or at,
I think that's just, I don't know that we ever actually put that on the resolution before, but we can add it on there if you would like it.
well, I know that all fees have to be paid prior
that's part
to,
of
and I
the-
mean, the one water bill is due today. But as far as the cost recovery for the police department, I thought we had,
And she did come in Friday and pick up a copy of that cost recovery thing so that she knows what
she
the
always
fees
does.
are.
I just
So,
didn't know
yeah.
if we were going to
She
note
was-
something in there.
I believe she was paying her water bill too. She was going across to pay her water bill as well, so.
Okay.
but I'll-
She's
I'll make
very
sure that
good.
they are.
She's always paid it ahead of time. I just wanted to make sure that we were aware of the fact that there is some cost recovery out there.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Have we had any problems with them in the past?
With paying the fees?
Depending
you
on
mean?
how far back you go.
Cleaning
There
up
were-
and,
there were problems. We have, the chief can give us a breakdown here.
For probably about the last 3 or 4 years now, we put a cost recovery on there. We put additional officers just in that area. Since then, we haven't had any really issues at all. Occasional parking problems within the neighborhoods, but no actual problems in the bar.
Further discussion?
Your Honor, I just want to point out, since it just happened, that McCafferty's was part of the Chocolate Walk, and point that out, that they have been good at giving back to the city in many different ways, and
They're good to the city, yes.
Probably want to vote, don't you?
It's up to you.
Go ahead and call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Mayor Carnes?
Yes.
Councilpersons Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Salcido?
Yes.
Next item that we have is resolved that special event permit number 2 be approved for the Lincoln Park Schools Educational Foundation 5K Run Walk to be held in the city of Lincoln Park on June 6, 2020, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. at Council Point Park and adjacent streets under the following conditions. 1, applicant shall be responsible for cleanup of all debris associated with the event from surrounding properties.
So move.
Support.
Have to advise that I am on the board for this foundation. I don't, just let it know. So, discussion? Clerk call the roll.
Councilpersons Breeding? Yes. Kelsey?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carts.
Yes. All righty. I have the amendment.
The revised one, yep.
Resolved that the accounts and claims payable for those items greater than $25,000 be approved as follows. This first item has been check release for due date, and that's MERS, January 2020 defined benefit, $201,565.96. The Bank of New York Mellon, SRF, semi-annual payment, $61,998.03. Downriver Utility Wastewater, December 2019 sewage usage user fee, February 2020 excess flow and charges, and principal and interest downriver sewage, $597,933.15. DTE Energy, January 2020 gas electric, $36,372.40. GFL Environmental, February 2020 residential curbside and DPS dumpster service, $192,516.64. Hennessy Engineers Incorporated, DWSD TAC and AWG Consulting, NDEQ Annual Stormwater Report, 24-inch emergency water main repair, water main replacement under I-75, 2019 road reconstruction, road bond reconstruction, road bond asphalt resurfacing, utility concrete sectioning, 2020 asphalt resurfacing, Phase 1 and 2, concrete reconstruction, Phase 1 and 2, concrete resectioning, CDBG intersection design and engineering, and Verizon and DTE gas main replacement plan reviews, $148,636.54. McKenna Associates, January 2020 Building Department Services Permit 2-day training session, $66,402.34. Michigan Municipal League 2018-19 Payroll Audit Workers' Comp, $48,501. Motorola 12 portable handheld radios and accessories, $32,426.17. And Water Tap Incorporated 24-inch water main repair, $40,275.
So moved.
Support.
Discussion?
Question on page 58 of the payables. I'll have to get some more information on the labor attorney fees, if we can get a breakdown of what that all includes. Is there a way we can, I know when I looked at the payables, it talks a little bit about that. If we can find out if it was all negotiations, or if it was phone calls on labor issues, or if there's a mix, I'm sorry.
Nope, that's okay. Did you look at the invoice that was in with the payables packet?
I looked at
Because
some-
that's all the
That's all
information
you
we get.
Okay, because I did look at that, and it through the chair, and it didn't, it went into, because it shouldn't, because you're looking at, it had some information, but not, that's why I asked.
Yeah, generally it will say on there if it's a phone call, and they outline the amount of time that was spent. In addition to that, there's certain things that I know they will leave off of there that are confidential, if there's some type of,
Sometimes through the chair, what it says is a labor question or personnel question or something. So I don't know if that has something to do with a contract, or that was somebody calling on a question on the contract that the unions had questioned, and the department didn't have the answer or whatever, and they called the labor attorney, because obviously he's the, so I'm just kind of curious, because if you track the money, we're spending, and we have a lot of contracts, but we spend a lot of money for phone calls, and I'm just wondering, is that because, I'm trying to get some information is what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I think
If that's all we
that's-
have, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I can look at that again. That's fine.
I can talk to Brandon and see if there's any additional information that can be provided. I know sometimes that they're talking to, there's times where I've talked to the labor attorneys, there's times the city manager, so.
Just if that, without breaking any kind of rules, and then we could just, through the chair, if we could just find out, is there a lot of concerns about the contract or personnel issues, or these are legitimate, we're going into contract, we need to get our, our ducks in a row and all that. And I'm just curious, because when you track the money, it's still, and I know we have a lot of contracts, but I'm just questioning that we pay a lot in attorney's fees, and I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can see where we're spending the money. Is it issues we're having in discussion after we settle the contracts, which surely shouldn't happen, but it does? Or is it issues we have because we're doing so many contracts and there's so much back and forth?
Yeah, and I know in recent months, we've had a lot of back and forth in regards to the arbitrations that have been going on with the pension issues. Obviously, there's been contract negotiations.
I don't know if that's feasible. I just asking. That's
Okay.
why I circled
Yep,
that.
I will bring it up with them tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's all I had, Your Honor.
Okay, is there further discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilpersons Breeding?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Salcido?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Yes. We were first advised that City Manager Koppler was leaving for the shores, so to speak. We were in a quandary that we wanted to do things the right way in our search, and we knew that that search was going to take a long time to accomplish. We were fortunate in that Mr. Zeck became available, and then at his wife's insistence, he was not available, and then he was then available again on a part-time basis. And his part-time basis is sort of full-time for many other folks with that. We've been very fortunate to have the services of Mr. Zeck, and not that this is awake or he's dying or anything of that nature, but this is his last regular meeting that he will be attendance with, and I just wanted to, and I'm sure that the rest of the council will do this also, but extend a thank you for really a job well done, because you not only just carried things over from point A to point B, but you gotten involved in a lot of things and tried to correct a lot of what you thought were things that needed correcting here. I just want to say that that's appreciative, and you very well deserve your time in Florida here that's coming. So we have for Mr. Zeck, if you could give us your report, sir, we'd appreciate that.
First of all, if I don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to give him a little hand there, because
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
no money, John, but just a hand.
If you keep
No
that
money.
up, then the report gets shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter.
I knew Ed would do that. Nice job, thank you.
It's been a pleasure to work for you. As the mayor indicated, when this was I was initially asked to consider coming here. My bride of many, many years, as who worries about my getting involved in things and spending a lot of time, and I'm supposed to be retired, and I did stay retired the last time for 18 months, so this is a record. And but I told her that this is a community that I have a soft spot for, and she knew that I served on the Receivership Transition Advisory Board. I came to know some of the staff, some of the mayor and the council, and Matt Koppler, et cetera. And so to be invited to come and work for you, I was flattered. And so we negotiated, we talked about labor negotiations. I have these at home. And we negotiated an agreement where I could, and she still thinks she got the short end of the agreement.
Just guess.
But and what's said here stays here, I think.
Yeah.
Perhaps. But it's been a pleasure to work for you, and I will help with your trying to help you with the new manager. Which leads me to the next part of my report, and that is we very much need to have another session with you as soon as it can be arranged to discuss the proposed contract with the manager that you've selected to come to work for you.
For a closed session?
And it needs to be a closed session to discuss the labor issue, just like we had previously. There's been a lot of conversation tonight about the council wants to be informed and on these matters, and I understand fully. It's the way the system is worked. It's checks and balances, three parts of government, the administration, the legislators, and the courts. I'm only one of the three. You're the other one of the three, and so we need to meet. And we'd
John,
like to
I
meet
would,
with you as soon as you can arrange
I
it.
would move that we have next Monday that's available, if that is good for everybody,
That'd be,
say at 6:30.
that'd be the 24th.
Don't have any problem.
2:24 at 6:30. That would be my resolution for a closed session to discuss
Special meeting to recess into closed session for labor negotiations.
I'll support.
How's
what
that?
she said.
Okay.
I'll
All
second
right.
it, if you need a second.
Thank you. Do we have discussion? Then clerk call the roll.
Mayor Carnes?
Yes.
Councilpersons Kelsey?
Yes.
Breeding?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Salcido?
Yes.
Okay, sir, back to you.
Okay,
Back to you.
thank you, and we will look forward to having that conversation with you to get your direction on how we should proceed with the next phase. I hope very much that we can come to consensus on Monday, make the offer, have it accepted, and have this matter on your agenda for March 2nd. That's my hope. I won't be here, but I'll be involved with preparing that packet with the department heads and the staff and the support staff and all, which leads me to my next point. You have very good department heads. I've enjoyed working with them. I've spent more time with some than others, but even the ones that are elected, like the clerk and the treasurer, have given me time and advice. And not that the others didn't want to, but you have very good staff. You have good support staff. They are conscientious. They're trying very hard to do the right thing. They have, for the most part, been here quite a while. And so they've seen the ups and downs of things. And so the time you spent tonight talking about certain issues, before I leave, I'd like to try to settle those things so that the questions you have about various operations, that you're no longer feeling like things are being kept from you or held from you. I was the manager of a community for 18 years. And believe me, in that period of time, lots of things happen. And you don't get to stay someplace in that capacity for 18 years if the council, which changed. I served 3 different mayors as the manager. I served countless members of the city council. I never had a contract in all the years I managed Wayne. Never had a contract. You don't hold that position if you shield things from them, you hide things from them, you don't tell them the truth. In every way, shape, or form, I've tried to keep you informed and tell you the truth. That's what led me to talk to you about dealing with those fuel tanks that are underground, et cetera, et cetera. So the staff have been very good and very helpful. And you know, it's a lot to be a manager. It's not a part-time job. It's a full-time job. And it takes some months, not just a couple. It takes some months, and in some cases, some years, to really understand the culture of the community. Every community is different. Since I've worked with Allen Park, Southgate, and now Lincoln Park, when I've worked with an elected clerk and elected treasurer. In Plymouth and in Wayne, the clerk and the treasurer were not elected. They were department heads, but they weren't elected. And so I've gotten kind of used to working with elected department heads. And the clerk and the treasurer here were extremely good to work with and very helpful, and as were all of you. So the next thing that I want to say is that you're looking for more discussion about the building department and about questions you have and the budget and so on and so forth. So you tell me when you'd like to have that meeting. If I can be here for it, I'd be glad to. If I can't be, then Mr. Myers, the attorneys, Lisa Griggs, the police chief, the people that are involved with these things, we will arrange to have a meeting. If you want to meet next week, we can do that next week. If you want it to be in March, it can be in March. But there's, again, I feel it's in the best interest of the city to rethink how the building department operates. And it's key that some very careful appointments be made to get this onto the right track, and that we not put up a artificial deadline to ourselves, that we do it methodically, carefully, get it implemented, and that we phase ourselves in. As John Myers indicated, we threw out a pretty large budget. Not all those people need to be hired at once, but key people need to be hired, and they need to get into the system here. We need to finish that procedures manual. We need to finish the sign ordinance. We need to finish some things that they'll be working with. And I really believe that in the next few years, this city will start to see the value of having a better building department, having more blight control, having more people working on making the city more attractive, more interesting to move to, not only to live, but perhaps to bring your business here. And there's just so many cities that are working very hard to redesign themselves. And you're off to a good start. You've already approved a master plan. You're partway through a new sign ordinance. You've looked at different parts of your zoning ordinance. And so I hope the momentum continues. Earlier tonight, a short while ago, when we were talking about pesticide, herbicides, et cetera, U.S. Lawns came up. And I just want to finish my report by saying I've worked with U.S. Lawns in 3 different communities. I had a great working relationship with that company. A couple of years back, the city hired a different company in 2013. They did not perform. The next best bidder was U.S. Lawns. The city directed the manager to approach U.S. Lawns and say, will you take over cutting the grass for LP Pride as well as for the parks and other properties? They said they would. Then the city went out to bids in 2016. That contract, they carried forward 13, 14, and 15. The city went out to bids in 2016. U.S. Lawns was considerably, $250,000 cheaper than the next 3 bidders. Why? Because they weren't going to bag and they weren't going to mulch. They were going to save the city some serious money. And the city approved that agreement. It should have at the time altered the contract to reflect that certain things that were in the bid specs were not going to be done by U.S. Lawns. And so I hope that we can arrange and fix that before I leave so that you understand exactly what they're going to do and not do, so that there's not expectations that aren't being met and you get upset. And because I know they want to earn your business. And and so we need to resolve that so that you know what they're going to do and not do. And if you want certain things done that they aren't going to do, that then you look at it and say, you direct the various appropriate people to get quotes or bids or whatever on those kinds of things. And whether you want to do herbicides in the parks, or you want to do this or do that, there's the parks, they take a beating. And unfortunately, some people just think that a park, they can drive their truck through it in the mud and make a mess. And then you can't cut the grass, you can't do the things you need to do in that park. And so we need to take some steps to make it so that people can't drive their truck in the park and make a mess of it, and then everybody struggles with trying to cut the grass and level it all out. So I'd like to do that before I leave and with you. But again, thank you so much for the time here. I'll be here until Friday the 28th, and I come to work, and I try to do my best, and I understand constructive criticism. I get it. Nobody's perfect, and I'm not. So constructive criticism, I appreciate. If I made a mistake or should have told you something or whatever, I really enjoy it when people pick up the phone and call me or send me an email or stop in. And I like working with you. And I wish you well. I really do. I really wish this community well. And not just in the near future, but in many, many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Well, we do not have a department head report tonight. We'll get them back on our regular schedule with the March 2nd.
Excuse me, Mayor, could we ask the city
Oh, I'm
manager some
sorry.
questions? Okay, I'm just because
Sure.
I got a couple just real quick. Well, they're never quick. 552 Emmons, okay, and I've talked to John Myers about this. There's been some discussion how this is done, and we discussed some of the issues about, this was put on the dangerous building board in October 7th or 17th of 2019, and somehow somebody started renovating that house, and a realtor started putting it up for sale, and yet it was supposed to be demolished, and the veterans organization was looking at it, to look at it for a halfway house, but yet this house said it was supposed to be demolished in 20 days, and that's one of the issues I want to talk about. We don't have the money, then that proposal for 20 days is what people hang their hat on, and so we need to take look at the language, because we say 20 days after we approve it, it's demolished. That's not how it happens. We don't have the money, we don't demolish the house. So we need to have something, that's my first question, is we need to have something in that boilerplate resolution that says 20 days, or if money is available, some kind of disclaimer, so the city's not caught with having to say that we're going to demolish it, and somebody coming up who's not a real lawyer, but a lawyer that comes up and says, hey, you said 20 days, why aren't you demolishing the house? My second question is that, how did
That's
the...
552 Emmons?
Yes, I'm sorry. I
Got
think
it?
you and me talked about that.
That's okay.
Remember?
Got it. 552 Emmons.
Yeah, you were going to take a drive-by there with something else that
Yep.
we talked about. The other question is, how did it get off the demolition list when we didn't authorize it to come off the demolition list? And I guess that's the question I got on Mr. Myers, and we never quite got to that point, is how did it ever get off, I guess is what I'm asking.
I will find that out and give you a report.
Okay.
I don't,
All right,
I don't,
well, whichever way, I don't care, as long as I get it, I don't
Mr.
care.
Myers is here now. He might
Okay.
as well give us an update.
It's not off the dangerous building, because someone takes an illegal action without knowledge. Someone else purchases the building without knowing that it's been demolished by registration of the city of Lincoln Park. When they try to sell it or process it without permits, it is not our fault. It'll be theirs, and they will have to handle the judges when we take them to court if they do not stop work orders. So they have been posted to not do any more work. They need to understand the bank that now owns it, because the owners stopped paying for it, reclaimed it as out of Chicago. So somewhere in the Chicago bank, they'd made a decision to send someone in to evaluate and process it. They violated, one, our city ordinance to not touch a building that's been considered demolished by the Dangerous Building Board and approved by the city council. And so the reality is, it's not off the Dangerous Building Board. They cannot remodel it without the approval of both the city council to take it off the Dangerous Building Board and the Dangerous Building Board recommending that there is a timeline restructuring of that property to take it off the Dangerous Building Board. So the reality is, in the 20-day issue is I agree that it probably needs to be changed, but it's not because it's not a reasonable request. It's because the standards now set by the state for a city to take a property away from an ownership and demolish it requires us to do 3 steps instead of 1. It requires us now to do testing for lead and asbestos. If any is found, then we need to take it out to bid for them to go and remove that, and then after that, we can put it to bid for demolition. So even if we were going to say that process starts in 20 days, I agree there's a 20-day change over there, but the process required by the building department to get it done, if we take control of demolishing it, is far longer than it would have been before by simply saying, putting it out to bid, and they drop it on the ground. So there's a number of pieces on it. But because another entity decides to not divulge themselves to the law that's in front of that property when they can see it's posted as a condemned house, that's not our liability, it's theirs when we catch them doing it.
Okay, so just to follow up real quickly, so we can't do nothing, like you're saying, if they want to show it to another group or whatever, that, we don't have nothing, we were gonna still demolish the house and it was posted as such, and they basically followed our ordinances, didn't follow it when they went in there, because if it was posted, they had to see it on the door.
They did. They would have had to see it.
That's what I'm asking.
So they broke law, and that's not on us. What I can say is the delinquency of process between the 6 or 7 buildings that the city did own that we have to try to take down, it got behind the scale. It could have been done earlier. It could have done that one before we did 1360 or White or one of the others. But that's what put my negligence to make sure that once it got back on the board and we approved it, that it became in the front line of all the houses that we still owned, that we took possession of to take down. And so in that case, you can blame that on the building department head for not getting all the houses down in a timely manner. But the process to get them down now isn't as simple as call 3 companies and let them take it down. We now have to fit a state requirement to assess and then remove the assessment and then go out. And for each one of those, we have to get a bid because of the cost nowadays to do those bids. So as Doreen and I work through those to use more CDBG revenue than building department or general fund to keep the costs off the general fund books, it takes us a little longer.
I'm glad you explained that, because there's a lot of confusion, and thank you, John, for
You're
that.
welcome.
And, because there is a lot of confusion, and again, it's communication. One last thing is that the medical part-time leave that we had in place, I talked to Jennifer and Justina, and they gave me some information. Then I talked to the employees who had got a hold of me, and there seems to be a disconnect. Can you look into that and find out where the disconnect is? I think it's just communication. I'm not sure, but it's something that was in place, and I know there was something sent out, but it seems like there was miscommunication from where it got from HR to where it should got to the employees. That's all. Okay. And I am done. Oh, sorry, one last thing. I apologize. Because we had a problem with these contracts, I'm going to put a resolution that we, as a council, whoever's on the council, is involved at the front end of these contracts before they get too far. And I think the reason I'm saying that, John, is because it seems like unless you put it in writing, everybody forgets. And I don't mean to nitpick, but we had 4 contracts here that we had knew nothing about, and I don't think that's respecting the council who takes the heat and the glory for what we do. And I think the bottom line, unless you put it in writing, then you're going to be leaving. The next the next city manager will at least have it where it's not a discussion, it's a point where the council has said, this is what's supposed to, this is policy or resolution. So I'll just be letting you know, and other than that, I'm done. Thank you very much. And
I'll be proud to second that so we can get it on the
yeah,
agenda.
that'd be a good thing. Thank you, Mike. But thank you very much. You've been very good. And Lisa, if she's still here, She's the other person we call on Friday and after. So Lisa, thank you. I mean, because you've been the person that has taken when John's not here. So I don't want to forget to thank you for that. And thank you, John. And you can always change your mind, come back. I'm all done, Your Honor. Thank you. I'm all set.
Further from council for Mr. Zach. Then we'll move on to citizen communications.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Richard Kudrak. There was a time when this council decided that Lincoln Park was not going to participate in marijuana in any way. Then we had a citizens initiative early in November where it was passed. And I know that there's a law firm that's supposedly doing the paperwork for the ordinance. And 3.5 months later, I haven't heard a word. I thought the law firm would have cobbled together something by now, a little cut and paste maybe. There's certainly enough other cities that have their ordinances. Through the chair, what's the status of that process?
Well, we'll have our city attorney check that out. I was curious myself, sir. He's going to check with the firm.
He's going to check. Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Thank you. Would you make his response public, please?
Certainly. Please note that.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mayor Carnes. For those of you who don't know me, I am Sean Nicholas. I'm here as the president of the Lincoln Park Police Officers Union. I have been a police officer with the city of Lincoln Park since 2007. Recently, the union reached out to the city in hopes of opening the current contract. We were hoping to negotiate a wage-only increase through a one-year contract extension. This extension would have also met with expiring at the same time of the command officer's new contract. That offer was rejected. In the years prior, under emergency management, financial management, we've faced major changes to our contract and have been forced to take major concessions due to the city's financial status. During the last negotiations, the city asked for help to improve the financial position from the patrolmen's union, and we stepped up and agreed. We took a 1% raise in 2018, no raise from 2019, no raise in 2020. The command union recently negotiated a contract extension which included wage increases, that got them to a more competitive wage with the surrounding departments. That's exactly what we are asking for. Close the gap between our wage scale and the surrounding communities in order to help us with our personnel retention. As you know, police departments across the state are struggling to find not only qualified candidates, but keep them, just as we are. People say that hiring is not a union issue. I disagree. We want to work with quality people. We spend countless hours training new officers. We hire to only lose them to other departments, and common factor when people leave is wages. For example, since I've been here from 2007, Adam Ruffner went to Woodhaven Police Department. Steve McKincheck went to Gibraltar Police Department. Patrick Moore, Allen Park Police Department. Mike Cracchiola, Redford Police Department. Kevin Rakowski, Hagerstown Police Department. Frank Cavazos, Trenton Police Department. Jessica Oliverio, Ann Arbor Police Department. Chad Pearson, Wyandotte Police Department. David Cowell, Plymouth Township Police Department. Dino Van, Woodhaven Police Department. Jacob Minch, Garden City Police Department. Ron Wise, Woodhaven Police Department. Joe Sparks, Green Oaks Township Police Department. Ryan Barrick, Woodhaven Police Department. Anthony Borg, Taylor Police Department. And our newest leaving this week is Alejandro Serna is going to Woodhaven Police Department. I know of at least 6 current members that are currently looking for employment in surrounding departments. We're hoping that the city will reconsider our offer to negotiate an extension and wage increase. The wage increase may help us with employee retention, and we cannot afford to lose any more officers. Thank you.
Zuffer Despotis. There's 2 things that I need to address, and one of them is the flooding on Garfield between Porter and Abbott. The drain sewer goes westward from Abbott towards Porter, and there's a blockage there. Now, it's been for years. I haven't complained too much, but I own 7 homes on that block, and 4 of them keep on flooding. I have pictures, which I will show you, Mayor, later, with 6 inches of water. And it's only the ones on the north end. On the south end, they're not flooding, okay? Now, there's a tree, and I presented this to the supervisor for the DPW, the one that quit, I don't remember his name, but nothing has been done. The tree in the middle of the block is what's blocking the water or the drains from draining. And the water becomes so overwhelming that the basements are becoming flooded. It's not only mine, also 2 other homes besides the 4 of mine that I own on that side, okay?
The street that floods, is it the street you're talking about that floods, sir?
Garfield?
Sir?
Yeah, Garfield.
The mayor's talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
What is it?
Is it the street that's flooding?
Yes,
It's the street that's flooding, and you're saying that it's causing the basements to flood also?
yes. What is happening is, my hearing is not good. I apologize. It's called youth. But every time it rains, it floods. Every time. Now, 3 weeks ago, when we had that rain, I had to call Anacondra, and he went through the 3 basements and did what he did. And he said that it's because of the sewers being overwhelmed with the water, with the drain. The water is supposed to drain to the main drain, which is by Porter. It's not, because it's blocked. The tree that's blocking that drain should have been cut down a long time ago, okay? And that's what's creating the problem.
Well, if I can interject, after we finish here, if you can come to talk to our city manager here, make
Okay.
arrangements to have an appointment with him, and you can bring your pictures and discuss it, and then
The-
he can also bring in the DPS director, and we can.
That would be great. Another thing that I have, of course, you know that I live on the corner of Porter and Garfield, and K&M Tire is a nuisance, a big nuisance. The trucks that are U-turning there, you made sure that they put a no U-turn sign at the pole, but it didn't last for too long. They tore it down so they can continue to U-turn at the corner there, when there's plenty of space behind the building to turn around, okay? Another thing is, at 5:30 in the morning, my God, come on, there's gotta be a time where they have to start working, not at 5 o'clock in the morning, okay? If I cut the lawn and the neighbors call, I will get ticketed if I did that before 7 o'clock. These guys have their engines revving at 4:30 and 5 o'clock in the morning, okay? Another issue that I want to bring up, which is not a major issue, but something that the city should be concerned, making a left-hand turn on Moran on Dix. There isn't enough time for 2 cars to make a left-hand turn after the light changes, because the oncoming traffic do not want to stop. So there's one of 2 things: either change the amount of time for the amber light, or put a turning light there, because somebody's going to get killed.
Both of those are controlled by the county and the state, so we can make a request for that.
Yeah,
And
that would be great.
Back when I was chief, I did make that request, but we can make another attempt to have that done.
One more thing is Dixon Southfield, the right turn going east on Southfield. I don't know where these people are going, but even on a red light, they don't give us enough time to make a left-hand turn into Kroger's. I mean, but even if the light changes, these guys continue to come spinning around the corner and no chance to turn into. It takes me usually 4 to 5 minutes to make a left-hand turn there, okay?
Reached your time for discussion here, but after the meeting, if
I
you
will.
set up with.
One more quick item. Vacant properties that the city demolishes. The residents that own the properties adjacent to the property should have first priority to buy or to split that lot if it's not buildable.
If it's not buildable, yes,
Yeah.
that's the way
And
it used, that's the way it
The
used to
city has
work,
not
sir.
been doing that. The city has not been giving us the chance to buy those lots. They've been given to a builder or some guy that's buying the whole 40, 50 or
You're right.
buildings. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I try not to make it a point to come here because my blood pressure goes up.
Mine too.
My name is Duchesne, and I live in Lincoln Park. And I was reading an article in Sunday's Free Press about our new redistricting that's coming up. And the article said California has a system that's called Top Two Primary. In a primary, the parties that have many people running to get the top vote so they can run for an office in November. In the top two primary, the first two voters get to run from the same party in November. In other words, in November, the election, the voter could have a choice in the same party. First time I ever heard of a system like that. Did any council members read that article and come up to the same conclusions that I did? No. Well, that's the way I interpreted the article. It sounds like a swell idea to get more people to vote. In a national holiday, it seems we have two systems about trash pickup. On some holidays, the trash pickup is just pushed back one day. On other holidays, it's regular day. Mr. Mayor, what about this week? Do I put my trash out tonight or tomorrow night?
If you normally put it out tonight, you put it out tonight.
Because on the 4th of July, they do put it back, but, I'm not sure what dates or what holidays they go by.
Yeah, it's a federal holiday, but I don't think I know that my trash was picked up on Monday, so.
Oh, then
I think
that's
that
the
yours
regular
would be on
day,
the
yeah. Because 4th of July and Christmas, they do put it off a day, and that gets confusing. I miss my day.
Well, there are 6 holidays, according to our city clerk here, that they don't pick up, that they adjust the schedule.
I see.
So I think that
Well-
we need to do a better job of getting that
Well,
information.
maybe that'd be a good idea when we have that, if you would mention, this week we're going to be on the regular pickup schedule.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Mayor, Council, very quick comments from myself. Just following up with what Crystal Medina, I apologize. So my name is Crystal Medina, and I am here just following up on what I heard with regards to losing some of our officers. Personally, that is very concerning to me. I understand you guys are responsible for the budget. You know what's in there. You know how you need to allocate that. However, again, they work really hard to build relationships with the community. They get to know different people, good and bad people. Then all of a sudden, they're not here anymore. They do get trained, and then they're not here anymore. And they're great officers, and it's really sad to see so many of them going. And so I just hope that you would consider that. Again, sometimes my position is to not be, I'm on the other side of things a lot of times, but I still appreciate all the hard work that they do. And literally, coffee and bicycles and meetings and breakfasts and shopping, and they've gone above and beyond to form a relationship with our community. And I just want that to be considered. And also, whoever does the lawns, if it's possible, should really bag and take it away, because a couple of the houses on my block, they do that. They come in, they mow the lawn, but it almost looks worse than it did, honestly, when they got there. And that's it. Have a great evening.
Chris Darzinski. My store, Lincoln Town, we're hosting a coloring contest on a monthly basis. Thank you, Councilman Ross, for that wonderful idea. So 1582 4th Street, bring the kids in, 3 to 6 year olds and 7 to 10 year olds. Pick up this month's Picture to Color, and we'll announce the winner at 11 a.m. on the first Saturday of each following month. The winners will be displayed in the front of the store in the display window, and each winner will get $25 of free collectibles. Councilman Higgins will advise all kids on the perfect collectibles to get. That's a joke. Hands at a City meeting, Sunday, February 23rd, VFW Post 552, 1125 4th Street. That's 5:10 p.m., 5:15 p.m. And we are, of course, the volunteer group that puts on 5 events in the city. Please come. We are always looking for new volunteers. We're ramping into our heavy season of event after event after event. So, Hands to the City volunteer meeting, Sunday, February 23rd, 5:10 p.m., VFW Post 552 1125 4th Street. Steak dinner and also chicken dinner at the VFW Post 1125 4th Street. That is Saturday, February 22nd, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., $12, and it is a good deal. I'll set aside my tech investment strategy, talk about police and fire pension portfolios, to let you know that back long ago, when I was a young man, some of my formal education involved 2 years of engineering and 2 years of architecture. I've done light construction, I've done heavy construction, I've worked landscape, I've built offices, I've torn down offices, I've worked on a lot of big machines, a lot of small machines, I've designed buildings, I've done a lot of architecture, and I can tell you, for his civil engineering, please folks, for his civil engineering knowledge alone, John Kazoo is worth every penny. And I wish there was a way that I could reach into my pocket and pay him more. Not to mention his institutional knowledge of the city and the downriver area around, and all that infrastructure knowledge and the contacts that he has. Trust me, from someone that has worked at a much lower level and probably would have been on one of the crews that he oversees. I've done that work. Man, that's hard work. And having to manage those guys and keep them motivated when you got a broken water main that's 15 feet under and it's 20 degrees outside, whew, man, that's hard work. Classic government is security, safety, and sanitation. Current government, that would translate into police, fire, DPS. That is the core of what makes a city. That is the core of what makes your services. That is the core that gives you a suburban community. John Kazoo is a good man. On top of all that, I learned a lot from him before I was on city council. I learned a lot from him while I was on city council, and I still continue to learn from him. And this is from a guy that has a certain amount of training on all this stuff already. So he's worth the money. Thank you very much.
Sean Stansberry. Recently, we talked about the big LED signs that are in Lincoln Park, and there was some talk about the brightness of the signs at night. I know a couple of the councilmen talked about it, Parkinson and a couple others, but I'm here to say that the big LED sign on Southfield, just before 75, in my opinion, is way too bright when you're driving at night. Has there been any complaints to the city about that? I'm curious about, through the chair.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay. I remember some talk about John Meyer and Councilman Parkinson talking about a lumen detector to detect how many lumens is coming off that sign. I wonder if we need to go out there and check that out, because I think sometimes people get distracted looking at that thing. I know I did when I went by. It's a nice sign, but it's kind of distracting, so I'm just wondering where that is, and I hope it doesn't cause any accidents, and I'm hoping the building department will look into it. The other issue, I know I've talked to the city attorney and I've talked to Councilwoman Breeding about this, is the beggars that we have on Southfield Road that come and they beg for money. right off of South 75 North. I drove by the other day, and there was a bag of trash sitting right at the end of the median. There's bottles everywhere. It looks crappy. It looks terrible. When you're coming off the freeway, coming into Lincoln Park, I know I asked the city attorney about this, and I know he told me that there was a slip and fall lawyer that came and talked to him and said, hey, if anybody messes with you, here's my card, you contact me, and we'll go after them. I think that, I don't know, in my opinion, that's really just a bad situation there. I just hope that I don't know, it's kind of pathetic, I think, for the city, so hopefully, maybe one day we can look into that and get rid of those people. Because I know, I've heard rumors that one of the people that are there were bragging about how much money they make. I mean, they make so much money there, it's not funny that they've said. And they think it's a joke, I guess, but, you know. The other thing I was gonna talk about, which I don't have to now, is the city using weed killer, glyphosate. And I'm glad that whoever, John Zek, I'm glad that you, with everybody else, talked about that non-carcinogen stuff that we're gonna be using. Hey, we got kids in the parks, we got animals that goes in the waterways at Council Point Park, the bees, everything around there. So that's a good thing. I'm glad that they're doing that. And I'd like to also talk about the governor fixing the damn roads. The bond she's requesting will do nothing for our local roads. I read a couple articles on that. And our youth are going to be paying for this for a long time once she gets those bonds out. It's never a good thing to borrow money for something like that. We could have done a different way, I'm sure, but she didn't want to do that. I want to touch real quick on John, Mr. Zek, you retiring again. I know me and you didn't see eye to eye when I first came here and you were first, about the recycling. But I'll have to admit, you seem to be a really knowledgeable man, really nice guy. You get back with everybody, and it's sad to see you go, but I guess you just were here temporarily, so if this new guy don't work out, maybe you can come out of retirement and start where you were left off at, so. And then I didn't get to talk about this. We had a special session for blight with the building department. We were talking about that. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know when it was it McKenna or somebody was supposed to walk around the neighborhoods and look for blight? Through the chair, Mayor, do you remember that?
It was discussed, but I don't think that it is part of the deal with Copler when he was going to have a blight officer.
Okay.
Assigned to that, but that position was never filled.
Okay, because I remember him talking about, because, I heard about the tarps on the, that's a big thing in my neighborhood. You got garages that are falling down, and they could target a lot of blight that way. Last thing I have real quick, I know Councilman Kelsey, thanks for, looking into the 552 Emmons. A friend of mine owns 2 houses on that block. There's only 3 houses. She owns 2 of them. She got with me to ask me what was going on. I got with Larry, I got with John Meyer. The only problem I have and the question I have is I talked to John Meyer after it was supposed to be demoed. This was at a council meeting. John specifically told me that, yes, that was supposed to be demoed. It was taken off the list by somebody. I don't know why. And it was switched with another house. My question is, why was it taken off the demolition list and switched with another house? And who made that decision? Because that person went over the council on that as far as I'm concerned. That's my opinion. So I'm just concerned about how that happened. And I know I talked to John Meyer, he got back with me. Seems like it's going to get resolved. I hope it does. I hope it's demoed. But the big problem too in this city is, and I've seen this before, when we demo a house, you can go to sheriff's sale. A real estate agent can pick it up, put it on the market, and if someone buys that house, even though they can't do anything in it, they can get a lawyer and start the whole process again, and it's going to be another 6-8 months before we can actually do something. So maybe that's a loophole with the state, I don't know, but that's a big problem. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Seeing no one else approaching, we'll go to the oral reports of the council. Council President Breeding.
Well, Mr. Zek, I hate to have you go. I think you've done a fine job. What I appreciated most about you is you were willing to listen and give feedback and not get upset with someone who's just blabbing on and on and on, or voicing their opinion regarding something that really you had no control over or whatever, but just listening to me. But your background and your history of the different communities and everything else really brought a lot to the city of Lincoln Park, and I really, really appreciate all that you've done. You're easy to work with, and again, maybe when you go to Florida, you'll get bit by a jellyfish and you'll come back, and then we'll bring you in part-time or something. But I really want to thank you. Hush. I really want to thank you and tell you how much I really appreciated working with you and everything. Anyways, okay, that's it. I understand, and I missed it. I understand from two of my other council members, that the new asphalt equipment was out working on Cleophas. On Cleophas.
Fort Park.
It was on Fort Park? Oh, and I missed it. I really wanted to see. I really wanted to see that beautiful, expensive piece of equipment work. But I'll drive down Fort Park and look at what they've done. Very good. I
Donna,
appreciate
they did it
that.
right out John's next window.
Folks.
Anyways, I wish I had seen it in action or whatever. I saw it during the demonstration, but I'm glad that it was out there today. And I think it's been a long enough meeting, and we've had prior meetings to this, and so it's been a long night, and I guess I've talked enough. Thank you.
Councilman Solcito?
Yes, once again, Mr. Zek, 2 weeks ago, I said I appreciated you, and you always got back with me, and I always appreciate that, so I wish you well in your retirement. Also, Sean Nichols, I believe that was your name, I hope that we can look at the police again. I know we did talk about it a couple weeks ago, but we need to definitely make sure we have our police stay for the long term. And it has been a long night, Your Honor. And one last thing, contracts, really, there was a lot of stuff in these contracts I had other questions for, but since Mr. Zek said it was before his time, I don't want to waste our time on that. But we definitely need to see contracts before they're brought up to us. Thank you.
Councilman Ross?
Thank you, Your Honor. First, can I just say thank you to everyone that's here tonight? Thank you so much. I don't think we've had a crowd this big in a long time. I just want to say thank you to Chris for inviting me to read to the children at the store. Thank you to Maureen for stepping in with the DDA chocolate walk, because that was really nice this year. I mean, it's always nice, but it just seemed like extra nice. Maybe it was the weather, because we had good weather. And then I want to give you some just reminders. The Families Against Narcotics meeting is this Thursday at 6:30 at the Turning Point Clubhouse. I know I mentioned that one before. But I also read in the paper that also on Thursday the 20th, our U.S. Representative Debbie Dingell is going to have a town hall focusing on environmental issues at the Westfield Activity Center in Trenton, and that's Thursday at 7. The Families Against Narcotics is at 6:30. Then on the 29th, our museum reopens. And they'll be open from 12 to 6, and they're focusing on Leap into the Past. So they're supposed to have activities for the kids. I know I read something about like things that they could play with, like wooden toys and old telephones. I'm not sure that that's going to interest them, but it'll be there. I also wanted to ask if it's okay. I know GFL sent us all an email about touring their materials facility, their recovery. Is anyone interested in going? Because I wanted to go, but I really don't want to go by myself.
B. Sorry,
Okay.
through the chair, B.
Okay, very good. Then I will reply. And Mr. Zak, thank you so much for saying yes. It has been a pleasure, and you have certainly set quite an example for the rest of us. You really have. It has been a pleasure to work with you and to learn from you. I think the only regret I have is that our new city manager was not here already to take advantage of learning from you also. But congratulations again on your retirement.
Thank you.
And I think that is it, Your Honor.
Councilman Higgins, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too want to add, Mr. Zach, you're going to be missed. I would appreciate it if you'd leave us your wife's phone number, so if the new guy doesn't work out, we can get a hold of you. We might be able to get her a good deal, But wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank you.
And for the people who did not get a chance to meet him or work with him, he is a fountain of information, and he has done a lot of good job in a very short time for the city, and he will be missed. I would like to two things coming from the schools. The school foundation was mentioned earlier tonight, which I know the mayor is a big part of. They raised money for the schools, and they recently bought some new equipment for the CEL, which is a program where they teach the special ed children at the high school cooking and serving food, and real job opportunities that they can have in the future. And they just bought a lot of the school foundation, which is going to be having the fundraiser we talked about earlier tonight. Just bought a lot of equipment for them, and I just wanted to tell people, when you hear about the school foundation, I'd like to tell people where and you're donating money, I'd like to tell people where that money went to, so they don't think that it's just being wasted. That it is a very good program, and thank the foundation for just stepping forward and doing that. I also like to, I'm on the subject of the schools. I'd like to state that we had a swimmer this weekend that took place in the Michigan State meet, and he broke the 100 butterfly record, which has been around our school for almost 30 years. And just a big congratulations to Josh. And also, this weekend, the cheerleaders were in a big competition, and they brought home the first place trophy. So that's something the cheerleaders haven't done in a long time.
Yep.
So congratulations to them as well.
Very good. Yep. Very good. Yep. Great.
I'd like to remind everybody that the Hands of the City, which is a group that puts on several events throughout the year, March 28th, it's coming up fast. It's the all-day jam. They'd like to announce the bands that they're going to have at their event. Infinity Beyond, which is the predominant Journey tribute band in the area. DD Rocks is going to be there. Interstate 90 is going to be there. And for the first time ever, we're going to have a country band there at Corey King, who's a very good entertainer. And all that money will go to putting on the Memorial Day Parade. So March 28th, all-day event. Come out, have a good time. That'll be it for tonight. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Kelsey.
Thank you, Your Honor. First of all, I'm unhappy I didn't win the chocolate walk. I really hustled that thing, but Councilwoman Ross had a way to beat the system. She had a chauffeur. She was running around. But anyways, that's a different thing. But we had a good time. I thought it was a blast. I ran into the mayor and a bunch of people all over the place, and it was a great time. The weather was nice. Maureen put a nice event on. If you missed it, shame on you. You got to meet a lot of businesses, a lot of nice people, a lot of candy. I think the dentist will be happy, but a lot of candy. Just a couple things real quick. Myself and Councilman Parkinson ran into a couple that was coming up and looking at the management office there to see about getting a tree for their tree on the easement that was taken out. And we don't have any trees right now, but I was wondering, should we not try to tree list with the name in case we get trees so we can contact these people? Because when they came up, but they didn't leave a name or number, nobody's going to know if we do get trees to plant, from whatever grant or whatever we used to get, or if we get some grants. So I'm just wondering if the city management could at least put people on a list, because it's a tree on their easement that we eliminated because it was probably destroyed or whatever. But I mean, if they want one, it at least puts the trees back in the city that were taken out, and we make sure they're the right ones because we get them when we plant them and stuff, but at least a list in case we do get some, so that's.
Did the people that came to city management, did they leave their name and number with
I don't
Ashley?
think so, because they said that they didn't have anything going on, and we just met them in the elevator when we were leaving, so, yes, today, right after ours.
I know where they're at.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman Parkinson, he was there.
You got a name for me?
Not a name, but I can get you an address.
Okay, cool.
And,
I'll give it to Ashley.
like I said before, the issue of, I guess I'll leave with this, is that everybody, rightfully so, comes to the council to complain or to ask for action. And we are the elected body. That's what we get elected for. That's the responsibilities we have. And I think that that's something the council has to rethink sometimes, is that we are the legislative body of this city, plain and simple, okay? Things that go on in this city, we should be notified of, because we get involved in them, just like the gentleman from the patrol officers up here. Those are contracts. We just got done talking about that. And I think John Zek has done a good job, but I think we have to reinforce the fact that we don't have to nitpick everything in the city, but we need to know when things change or when somebody's going to make a change that affects us when we get it here. A lot of times, if you see this big packet, this is what we got on Friday. We went through to make sure tonight we read most of that stuff, or all of that stuff, actually. And if you think it's good reading, congratulations, it's not. But it's something you have to read because you have to know what you're doing. And congrats to everybody up here that does their homework, and we talked about it tonight. So I guess I'm reinforcing the fact that if something happens, then whoever, the department heads or whatever, should come back to the council if there's a problem. That's what we're here for. We're not here to yell at you, but we want to know what's going on, because if we don't know, believe me, a citizen's going to call us, or one of us, and then they're going to come up here and we're going to say we don't know, and that doesn't make us look good. And I'll leave with that, and it's been a long night, and thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, sir. Councilman Parkinson.
Thank you. Back it again to you, John. You will be missed very much. You set the bar high to our new city manager. He's going to have hard shoes to fill. So come on back. Give me a call this summer. I'll meet you over at Bunny's. That's it. That's a restaurant, not a casino. Well, it's good. That's John. It's a good place. The building department, I'm glad to see that that's coming about. I've been working on it for 3 years and beat my head against the wall, so I'm definitely glad that that's coming to pass. John, for you to DPS, I know I work for the DPS. I know what kind of job you've got, and it's getting worse every year. Your manpower's down to nothing. You're doing a fantastic job, and yes, you deserve every bit of that raise, if not more. So, John is a very good asset to the city. So, thank you very much, John. And Sean, you asked about the aluminum detector for the, it's in the city it's in the ordinance that we're gonna pass. And John, did you get a new detector? You were looking for one?
I have not, it's on my desk to be PO'd to get purchased.
Okay.
And it's not, it's an Illumis, not a Lumos.
Whatever, it's a light meter.
Please, through the chair, ask for permission for those, sir.
Okay, I just remarking your comment that it is in the upcoming ordinance, and he is working on a detector, so. And with that, thank you, good night.
Thank you, sir. There's comments on the Lincoln Park School Educational Foundation, as the councilman was kind enough to say about the fridge. The purpose of the foundation is to fund projects and things in the schools that the district would not afford or allow them to do, such as the ability of a group of kids that are going to New York City, the drama club, to pay for from somebody that is in the chorus line to do a little acting and dancing lessons for those kids that are there, just a little touch of it. Or a group of kids to see a play or different reading programs and equipments and alternative seatings and stuff. The foundation gave out approximately $8,800 in mini grants to people that have applied for there. So that's a little bit about what that does. And it's funded through donations to people, but a lot of the things that come in is through their gala that they have once a year in the spring, which will be coming up, and also through contributions from the teachers and other employees at the school district. They give a little bit each time in order to make that happen. Thank you to the officers that were here. It's not easy to come up and present that. Your comments are well taken, and I hope that they will be acted upon. And with that, so if we mentioned with the trees, we're coming up on 50 years for Arbor Day celebration, and we will be taking part in that. I have applied for a grant from, I don't know, if it's not Tree City, but through, in cooperation with Ms. Cisnes over at the high school, a grant for some 30 to 50 trees that would be used in the parks, but that's just the beginning. We'll be looking at bringing in more trees also. And with that, I will.
So move.
Support. All done. Clerk, call the roll.
Councilperson Salcido?
Yes.
Higgins?
Yes.
Breeding? Kelsey?
Yes.
Parkinson?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
And Mayor Carnes.
Well, you made history.
Yes.